Okay, today is Wednesday, April 9th, 11:25. I'm in City Hall, and I am going down to Supervisor Avalos' area to speak with, his aides about leaving my contact information, because there's been several articles written lately, one in the SFBG about covered San Francisco, how it would bridge the gap between healthy San Francisco and Obamacare. And, his name is all over it regarding, medical issues and care. And then in today's paper, SF Gate, there's an article about a supervisor calling for hearings on police cameras. And, I want to show him my videos that I have in regard to, what I've received at the hands of the SFPD in regard to, shall we say, police cameras, video retention policies, etc., etc. So we'll go from there. Anyway, here we are. Let's go ahead and leave our contact information. Hello, Mr. Avalos. What a pleasure. May I come in, or are you busy right now, or can I just leave you with some basic information?
Sure. What's the camera about? I'm not in the habit of just so investing in my office with a camera, as if it's like fair game for me to be on camera without my permission.
I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry, sir. I thought that as my government representative that I had the right to petition, and I thought that in a public building seeking public services that, a right of expectation was not granted. And in your role as a public servant, I'm a little perturbed by the comment. And in addition, I'm coming to you.
Come in, we're having a conversation. That's typically the interaction that I have with people. I typically just don't expect someone to come in with a camera without, asking me beforehand whether it's okay, it makes me feel uncomfortable or anything like that. This is like out of maybe the 10,000 people come to my office, we're the first ones to enter with a camera like that.
Well, isn't that really special, sir? Because maybe I'm not doing anything that's incorrect, and maybe I'm just doing something that I can afford myself to. But regardless,
I did not say you were doing anything incorrect, but the assumption that, that's like a good way to interact with someone who's a public figure is, or an appropriate way to interact is maybe just an assumption and not necessarily one that is in practice one that's done very often.
well, that's very well said from a lawyerly point of view. However, I could also make the argument from the NSA point of view and Mr. Snowden's point of view that sometimes the laws don't work and aren't accountable. Anyway, can I continue? I'd like to leave you some stuff. I still want to leave you this stuff. Do you want it or not, sir?
You're welcome to leave it, please.
Thank you. Thank you. No problem. This is concerning an article that was in today's paper regarding a call for hearing on police cameras. And if you go to YouTube under Jason Garza, there's close to 400 videos of me being denied health care. And there's also another article here, about your interest in healthy San Francisco and everything else and the bridge. And I've had nothing but problems with the Department of Public Health with it providing appropriate health care. When I've gone to elevate to the police department, as a matter of fact, on 8/15/12, when I took a police officer out for civil standby to the Department of Public Health, they produced a bogus restraining order against me. And so these are all issues for public safety and public health, which are, like I said, you're calling for hearings in regard to police cameras and everything else. And when I was, for example, illegally arrested at, and detained on a 5150 at Northern Station, and I requested the police videos and the policies about those videos, I was told that they didn't exist. Yeah. So, this is in conjunction with you trying to hold these people accountable. That's why I have my camera.
I figured that was the case.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
don't, I'm just not, it's just not my common experience to have, a camera in front of my face and someone comes in the office.
And dear sir, it's not my common experience to have, let me please interject. It's not my common experience to have a signed confession by the city after it had my federal court case thrown out with testifying in fraud in 2003, and then they had a confession with the Office of Inspector General for denial of emergency services, once again continually medical, around the Department of Public Health, that they signed in 2007, the only one of its kind through the Office of Inspector General. It's now 2014, and I'm still trying to seek my medical care, and they're still breaking the law because you know what? What was the consequence of them doing it priorly? So, unfortunately, this is a reflection of all the maltreatment that I've received, and realizing that in order to protect myself in a situation where words are meaningless, and, there's games being played, and there is no law enforcement to medical care. Like I said, on 8/15/12, I went to the department. There's no law enforcement. No one enforces medical law. If the Department of Public Health produces a bogus restraining order, the sheriff's only duty is to walk me out as opposed to arresting the Department of Public Health for the criminal fraud and making them provide me the services. That is on YouTube under Jason Garza. Please look at it. I'd like to leave you my email address so that we can set up a meeting and I can talk to you about the videos and hopefully correct this for everyone. The things that I am going through, that I've been put through, and like I said, to have a signed confession from the city that no one has explained to me, considering, it admits fault and guilt for medical issues. It's simply continuing is so unacceptable, you have no idea. So may I please leave you my email address?
You want to write down?
Yes, please. And trust me, sir, I am not trying to be abrasive. I'm trying to get away from you. I'm not trying to be abrasive. You just have to understand with 400 videos and nothing being accomplished in a year and a half, being dead right, I have no choice but to continue to do the right thing in a society which doesn't accept the right thing because it's unaccountable. That is not my problem.
Well, I'm not arguing with you there.
Well, thank you. I'm not trying to be abrasive, but when people get in, say to me, how dare you videotape me? Well, I was raised.
I didn't say how dare you.
I understand, but I wasn't implying necessarily you. But when people tell me that, I was raised in an era where we had professionalism. We didn't care whether we were videotaped or not because we were going to do our job as best as possible so there wasn't any error because we were going to do it right anyway. And when you go to your public officials, and if you look at the tapes, you'll see where everybody is hiding not to be videotaped while performing a public function. Disgraceful? Oh, please, I cannot begin to tell you how much. But, when you can commit fraud and test a lie in federal court to have somebody's case dismissed, and 4 years later sign a confession with somebody who has an adjustment disorder, who can't adjust to disorder, admitting fault and guilt, and then never explain to them. Obviously, the law, humanity, compassion, truth, and honor hold no place here. But once again, that's not my problem.
Well, I think all those things you just said, the law, humanity, truth, don't have a lot of place in here. I mean, they should. They don't.
Well, excuse me, sir. If there is no place for me here, and I already am not living because I can't get what is legally required, and I'm ill, and everything else, then what is the point of continuing? Especially if we both know, like you said, the law is meaningless. What is the point? To continue to suffer? It's not my world. I want to make it right. That's why I've continued.
I think the camera is for you to assert that while the law in practice is meaningless, the law is there and should be used and should be a framework for how we actually interact and behave.
Once again, getting back to the Snowden issue and how that really, in my opinion, is a load of tripe because he did follow the law. He took an oath to the Constitution to protect it against foreign and domestic terrorism. And when, he exposed the truth about domestic terrorism and what was happening to the American people, everybody labeled him a traitor.
He was actually following the law, right?
That's exactly what I said. So we're in agreement on that.
Yeah.
So, I've been following the law. The law has been continually broken against me, and law enforcement has sat by because they don't enforce the medical law. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your kindness. Please contact me via that email address. We'll set up a meeting. I'll be happy to go over the videos with you, show you not only the inhumanity, but, the deliberateness of all of this. Oh, and if there's anybody you want to talk to about me seeking my medical care and for how long, you can speak to the clerk of the board, Angela, because, this all started, 12 years ago when my doctor was Mitchell Katz, the director of public health.
And she was not the clerk then?
No, but she is currently now. She was working for Tom Armiana at that point, and, that's when I went to her in regard to, the 2001 incident in which I was denied emergency services at San Francisco General. On and on and on. The paperwork is there. Type Jason Grant Garza into a Google engine. You'll see many articles about, for example, something I'd love to talk to you about, David Chu's failing civil Gideon.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'd like to educate you on what a failure that was. Because, I went to David Chu in regard to civil Gideon, and civil Gideon is the concept like, prisoners Gideon, criminal Gideon, that, certain things you need to have a lawyer for, and if you're poor and you can't afford them, you should get a lawyer to protect your rights. And so that's the premise of civil Gideon, and Mr. Chu's office supposedly had that, and when the Department of Public Health produced the bogus stay-away order, I went to David Chu and asked him under his civil Gideon legislation, and they sent me to, of course, naturally, the San Francisco Bar Association, with after, seeing everything I had, the videos and everything told me that there was nothing they could do for me. Let me just tell you, corruption is not the word. Unaccountable rhetoric that's never accounted for. I believe it was Oscar Wilde who once said that he couldn't wait to live to see the day when every politician was strangled with the entrails of every priest, because they can promise anything, never deliver, and never be held to account.
The entrails of what?
Every politician was strangled with the entrails of every priest. Anyway, thank you, sir. Please, I'm sorry if we may have gotten off on the wrong foot, but I think now you've, felt heart to heart with me and understand a little bit about me, and given, our explanation and our conversation. Let us continue on this, because my goal is to make it right for everybody and accountable. And like I said, I've got over 400 videos. I have a signed confession from the city after having had my case thrown out of federal court with testification and fraud, that nobody still has had the testicular fortitude to come clean about. So,
the male side, the female side would be...
well, yeah, correct. But you understand where I'm going with that. I didn't really want to use the specific terminology.
Yeah.
So thank you again for your kindness. Sure. And, I appreciate your style. I have no qualms being spoken to and having a dialogue. And I think that when this first started, you attempted to have a dialogue about your feelings. And I think I was very real in my dialogue back. So, I have no qualms about that. The qualms I have, if you look at the videotapes, is everybody's, who I've dealt with, has had their dialogue, and it's their way or the highway. It hasn't been a dialogue. Anyway, thanks. Contact me, and we'll go forward. And like I said, if you need any more information, because supposedly Angela, put stuff in everybody's supervisor's box about, the lack of my health care years ago. Supposedly, everybody should know about this, and, we can just continue to follow up.
I'll follow up with Angela.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Could you also please, right now I'm trying to get in front of what I call the Ministry of Sunshine, which is the San Francisco...
Mini True.
Pardon me?
Not.
Pardon me?
Mini True.
No. The Ministry of Sunshine. It's
Sunshine
Orwellian.
Task Force?
Yes, correct.
Mini True is the name of the Orwellian...
Oh, is it?
Mini True.
Okay. Well, that was the reference I was making, Orwellian, but I didn't know about the Mini True.
Mini True. It wasn't plenty. Nothing was plentiful, and there was no truth.
Sort of reminds me of the Princess's Bride, well, he's not completely dead. He's nearly, totally dead, but not totally, nearly dead. Yeah, but the point that, I forgot where I was going. I got derailed with our comedy.
Sunshine Task Force.
Yes, that I have many cases in front of the Ministry of Sunshine, for example, against the Department of Public Health for denying me my own medical records. And, I went to Angela, because I wanted to understand why it is that they're not fully sat, why we had a nuclear winter, where it was closed for 6 months, because of, how was it shut down and why? What's to ensure it's not going to happen again? This next time people are appointed, I believe their term is up April 27th.
For the Health Commission? For Task Force.
The task force, correct. So, if we didn't even have a full board from last time, and they had 3 holdovers, and it was 2 years, and supposedly the Rules Committee through the Board of Supervisors, you guys, hasn't been able to fill that, and the reason it was closed down, I believe, was because, there wasn't somebody who was disabled on the task force, which was part of the bylaws, and, for 6 months.
I was trying to get Bruce Wolf to be on there.
No, please understand this. We as the people who have no rights already and the law doesn't work, according to what we discussed in the past, live under this false illusion that maybe if we get our paperwork timely, we can get things affected between the departments that we need to deal with. And when you go to the Ministry of Sunshine, for an IDR that's supposed to be answered in 24 hours, and you can't even get a hearing on the failure till 6-9 months later, it sort of defeats the entire purpose of, getting what you need quickly so that you can, have the paperwork and the backup that you need when you go and you deal with the agencies. It's a beautiful illusion. It's Machiavellian. It truly, truly is. And it's like I said, the Ministry of Sunshine, because they're not there to help the complainant. They're just simply there to, it's a risk management tool to drag it out, vex them, give them incorrect law interpretation. Oh, and by the way, if by any chance they happen to do something right, and I'll give you a personal example.
I do have to get on.
Okay. Last point, I'll give you a personal example. In 2001, when I was illegally arrested and denied emergency services, and the sheriff's office was involved in it, I wrote the sheriff's department in regard to receiving my medical records, and I was written back by their legal counsel saying I wasn't entitled to it, and it was signed Nurse Ratchet. And at that point, I took them to the Sunshine Task Force. The Sunshine Task Force found that they were guilty, pushed it up to ethics, and nothing came of it because there's no enforcement. So you see, pipe dream, set up to fail, or as I call it, in a tech term, flow charted into oblivion by design. Thank you.
Well,
contact me.
Great. I'm more with the R.P. McMurphy way of doing things. So.
Which is? I don't understand that. Mr. Murphy, is that everything that can go wrong does go wrong?
Randall Patrick Murphy?
No, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Patrick Murphy was the counterpart to Nurse Ratchet.
Counterpart to what?
Nurse Ratchet.
See, I don't know. I just know it was signed R.N. Ratchet, and I have something from the task force that says, oh, it was a crime and it was wrong, and nothing from the Ethics Commission enforcing it.
I do have to get on other business, but
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please contact me.